Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rompa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, it is July 22nd. This is episode 61 of the KayFabe Smark Podcast. My name is Brian, and I am hanging out with you here. We are doing the KayFabe Smark Podcast, and I am having a slight technical difficulty, but we're going to shoot it over to Eric Todd while we get this tightened up. Eric, what is going on in your world?
Oh, you know, same old. Little chaos over here last night was a fucking shit show. So my son is on his way home from work, probably about 7:30 at night. He gives me a call, and he's like, I found this dog on the side of the road. He doesn't have a collar. I don't know what to do. As many of our listeners may know, I have a pit bull at home, and my pit bull doesn't play kindly with other dogs. So I told him to take it down to the fire station because it's right down the street from us. Fire station won't even let him in the building. They're like, oh, you can't bring it in here. Someone might be allergic to it. Mind you, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So we're like, what the hell are we supposed to do with this dog? And the chief at the fire station tells us to take it down to Oakland County Animal Control or the animal shelter. But it's 8:30 at night. So we drive probably about 40 minutes to this animal shelter, and he's like, oh, don't worry, there's kennels out back. You can just put them in one of the kennels. We get there, there's a big ass sign posted. Anyone who drops off their dog without calling this number first will spend up to 93 days in jail, $1,000 fine. You're on camera, yada, yada, yada. So we had to call public safety, wait for them to come down, get the dog from us, take the dog inside to the kennel, and my son had to fill out all this paperwork. They basically want to make sure we're not just dumping our dog off. But what a way to spend a Wednesday night, Brian.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. Drive over
Rescuing all over stray dogs and driving them an hour away from my house just so my dog won't eat them.
Real convenient, real fun. All of that going on, and you didn't get to watch AEW last night.
I didn't. I missed Fyter Fest night 2. I looked up the synopsis online. Be honest with you, it didn't look like a very exciting show, but I heard you watched it, so you might have to throw a little recap at me.
Yeah, had a few little peaks and more valleys, but all is good. Before we dive into all of our tearing apart the wrestling this week, do you have some news for us, Eric?
Of course I got news. Peep the background, Brian.
It's right in the background, silly goose. Let's hit the swirly boy, and we'll make this official.
Swirl it up.
From around the world to your ears, here's Eric with the news.
All right. In WWE news, Brian, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Harry Smith, has finally debuted. He wrestled a dark match before SmackDown. He and Austin Theory fought Odyssey Jones and Zion Quinn. Couldn't pick them two motherfuckers out of a lineup if you had a gun to my head. But according to PWI Insider there, I guess Harry Smith has been signed with WWE since most likely March. But they've been holding off on his debut here, so that'll be definitely something to watch. I don't know if I'm excited for it. I don't know if I have high expectations for it. But, man, that he looks just like his daddy. And I don't know. I hope they do good things with him.
He's a great worker. I watched him wrestle New Japan and then MLW. He would pop over there when he was in the States and things like that. So I've seen him, Davey Boy Smith Jr., around the way wrestling. And he's nothing but talent. But hopefully he's used correctly, as the problem has been seen before, especially with that second generation. We had those problems before, right? Ted DiBiase Jr. and the likes of those that just seem to be, hey, you're so-and-so's son, go be good. And the only one
Brian Christophers.
the only one who did that was Randy Orton was the only one able to pick up and run with that ball. So we shall see what he can do in the WWE world.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he can follow the trail that Randy Orton blazed. But it's been a long week with ongoing news with Daniel Bryan.
Oh boy.
So it started out early in the week. Pretty much everyone was putting their heads together in the internet wrestling community there, and they figured out that Daniel Bryan is not coming back to WWE, and that was pretty much solidified that he is not part of WWE's licensing and merchandising for 21 and 22. So that kind of put it into stone that he wasn't coming to WWE. Then a report pops up, this fella Cassidy Haynes over at bodyslam.net, and it says that Daniel Bryan is quote unquote locked in and has signed a contract with AEW. And then later on in the week, now we are being told Daniel Bryan's AEW debut is scheduled for the September 22nd episode of AEW Dynamite, which will be a Grand Slam special from Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. So the cat's out of the bag. Unless this guy is completely full of shit up to his eyebrows, Daniel Bryan is all elite, and he'll be debuting in September.
Does it mean anything? Does it matter? Is it exciting? I don't know. I don't think it matters.
I mean, you raise a good point there. Look at all the huge talents that they've brought over so far, and they've just kind of blended in to the rest of the group there. And it's probably not going to make a big difference, Brian.
Yeah. I was talking with our good friend of the show, Andrew, and he was, making a valid statements about, like, they just, AEW, as in they, pronouns, they bring in guys, it's a big pop for that night, and then it's just, who can we do that next with? Nothing continued on with the story. Nothing continued on with working content. It's just like, hey, they're here, and then they're gone, and who cares anymore? Or they're still there, but they just get lost, as we like to say, in the sauce.
Right. But maybe Daniel Bryan has the most potential because he did just come off of within the past 6 months, pretty much closer than a nut hair of getting that WWE Universal Championship. I mean, Christian was off TV for 10 years.
Then you bring in
Rusev really wasn't doing anything before he debuted. Mark Henry and Paul White, they were both retired already. Andrade, nobody really gave a shit about him when he was in WWE. So I don't know.
We'll see.
Bryan Danielson so far probably has the most potential.
And then, of course, he's going to be Bryan Danielson, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Can't be Daniel Bryan. I wonder if he's allowed to say yes, or maybe he'll do a Spanish gimmick and he'll see. Spoiler alert, John Cena made his return at Money in the Bank, and his full WWE schedule has been released, and he's got a pretty full schedule. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but he's got a whole slew of SmackDowns, house shows, Raws, more house shows, more SmackDowns, more Raws, and then finally concluding with SummerSlam is the last announced date for John Cena on August 21st. So he is booked solid pretty much for the next month with WWE. We're going to be seeing a lot of John Cena, or not seeing a lot of John Cena, I guess, however you want to look at it.
Do you think this was they reached and made all this happen because they're allowed to tour now, or the touring is lifted in most states and they can have live crowds? Or do you think this was put in the back pocket for when it does happen? Meaning, have they been waiting to pull this out? Like they had John going, hey, man, as soon as you got live crowds, I'm your guy. We'll do it. Or do you think it was like, holy shit, we got live crowds. We need star power to bring people back. John Cena, get him on the phone. Which one do you think it is?
I personally think WWE has been itching to bring him back in for a long time, but they weren't going to waste it on empty arenas. So,
Right.
yeah, I think it was the former. I think they had this thing in the books, and they're just, we got to hold off till we get some crowds. And as you saw by his pop at Money in the Bank, eh, nobody can see him.
No, can't see him on that.
Um, a little speculation was going on about Braun Strowman for a hot minute. People all over the internet were speculating that WWE may be bringing Braun Strowman back the same way they brought back Samoa Joe there, because Braun Strowman tank tops and some new Braun Strowman merchandise debuted on WWE Shop. The thing is, the shit ain't new. They just threw new tags on it, and the stuff was up way before Braun Strowman even got released. So if your hopes were up that Braun Strowman was coming back to WWE, throw them shits back in the garbage can, because that monster ain't coming back anytime soon.
You're not feeling we're gonna see a surprise re-entrance of him.
Nobody would care, and I think WWE knows that. So you take John Cena's pop. Just imagine if you took Cena out of the picture and Braun Strowman walked out. The crowdometer wouldn't have fluctuated nearly as much there if it was Strowman instead of Cena. I honestly don't think anybody cares if Braun Strowman came back.
Well, if they're smart, also, they wouldn't bring anybody back right now, because
Right.
it's all going to be held under the umbrella of John Cena. So nobody else will be able to match that again, as you've stated. So if they bring back John Cena, they bring back John Cena this week, and next week it's Braun Strowman, is going to feel like nothing. Like, who cares? It's going to be a wash. They're going to have to wait a while to get some pops from returns or new debuts, re-debuts, if you will.
Yeah, they'd have to wait till the Cena thing definitely fizzles out sometime after SummerSlam if they were even thinking about bringing him back.
Agreed.
Speaking of speculation and returns, CM Punk pretty much is saying that he's ready to get back into a wrestling ring on a regular basis. According to Fightful Select, CM Punk is reported to be in talks about lacing up his boots again, getting back in the ring. It says that AEW is the most likely place for him to show up, but there's no confirmation yet. There's no contract yet. It's just speculation that AEW seems like it would be the best home for CM Punk. WWE is also aware of CM Punk's talks with these smaller promotions, and officials at WWE full on believe that CM Punk will end up in AEW. So that could definitely top a Bryan Danielson debut. But All Out is going to be in Chicago this year, and that would be a perfect place for CM Punk to debut.
It would. I don't know how. I'm a CM Punk mark. I mean, I got this goddamn shirt on as we do this podcast right now. But how much time has passed? What does it mean anymore? I think the best thing for him would be to head to a smaller promotion. Of course, AEW probably being that top of the smaller promotions, because he'll be able to come in and write his own ticket. He can come in and say, I'm working this date and I'm not doing this date, and he can get that Hulk Hogan NWO stroke from the WCW days of coming in and going, creative control, I'm working one Wednesday a month, and I'll work every third pay-per-view. Well, they only do a pay-per-view every quarter, so I'll do every pay-per-view and two weekly shows, and he can just pick his stuff and do as he pleases.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me skeptical of this is rewind the clock just a few months ago when people were really trying to get CM Punk to come back, and he said straight up, I feel if I come back to any promotion right now, I'll just be a guy playing a part doing bad television. And if he signs with AEW, I mean, I'm not really trying to shit on AEW here. I'm just being factual. He will be a guy playing a part doing bad television. And so I don't know. That's another one. We shall see.
We shall see. I just think sometimes the thought process is always put on these older, and it's not even old. This was other people that have already created a name. You know, even WWE does it. It's like, focus on some people you got and rebuild something and just build up some talent you have. And the nostalgia wears off. Christian debuts. Awesome. Great. He wrestles Orange Cassidy or whatever in Jungle Boy and nobody cares. Yeah. And then it's the same thing. John Cena's back. What's he going to do? A couple weeks, it'll be Cena sucks again.
Right. I don't know. That's going to be a hard sell because who sucks more, Roman Reigns or John Cena? They are definitely the two of the most hated guys by WWE crowds, live crowds.
Factual.
Thunder Rosa, we've seen a ton of her in AEW, but the whole time she's just been on AEW television as part of the crossover deal between AEW and NWA. That has come to a full stop now. Thunder Rosa is officially All Elite now. She has signed a contract with AEW, and that's definitely a good thing for their women's division. Now they got Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. I mean, that's a pretty good start to the women's division. Hopefully they keep working on it.
Yeah, they are definitely growing something there and can keep building it. And Thunder Rosa is good. I think she's a little eccentric for my likes sometimes, but that's all right. I can like to hate her, so that works for me. She's a good worker in the ring. She can work and move. It's just her character is so like, I'm the best. It's very positive and I don't know, it's weird. But anyways, we'll see. It'll be good.
Yeah, I don't know. She has good chemistry with Britt Baker, so hopefully they, not to revisit feuds over and over again, but them two seem to work really well together, and they seem to have genuine hatred on the TV screen. They play it up pretty well.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, more speculation of debuts going on in the wrestling world. The Rock is scheduled, according to Andrew Zarian of Man Men Pro Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty reliable source there. The Rock is scheduled for the Survivor Series pay-per-view in November, and that will be celebrating his 25th anniversary since his debut in WWE. So he's supposed to be popping up on WWE television in November, and I guess that's supposed to kick things off, working towards a singles match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 38.
All of that seems very believable. So it doesn't seem far off from what should happen. It's his 25th anniversary. It's a reason to bring him back. They can start pushing towards that match that has to happen of the head of the table and all that fun stuff. So I pretty much see it happening. I just don't know when. If that's the exact date, I'm not putting my money on that, but it would make sense.
The only thing that stinks for it for me is it all makes sense, and it seems like they're all but confirming that we're going to get WrestleMania 2022, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. It just kind of puts a spoiler on it for me, though, because in order for anybody to care about Roman Reigns, I think he has to be champion. So even if he loses it sometime over the next year or so,
he'll have to get it back.
At WrestleMania 38, I think he's going to have that belt around his waist when he fights The Rock.
Yeah. Because what does the matter? What's the head of the table if you're not the champion?
Right. Nobody cares. And it's Roman Reigns. Nobody gave a shit about him until they stuck him with Paul Heyman and had him working towards getting that belt.
Correct. I got a little bit of what you like to call the Peacock news, Eric.
Oh, yeah. Hit me with the Peacock.
As I was watching Money in the Bank this weekend, I was laying on the couch watching this, and I rolled over and got comfy on my side and laid on the remote, and boy, guess what I did? I paused it. You can pause Peacock now, and then I rewound it and then went back to live.
You paused Money in the Bank while it was live?
100. On accident.
Oh my goodness. I wish they would have announced that because I always just wait and rewatch the replay because I wasn't dealing with that. You have to watch every second. You can't take a piss bullshit.
Yeah, it worked. So I was texting with Andrew and I said, holy shit, I'm watching this and I paused it. I said, you can pause it now. He goes, oh, you better put that in the Peacock news. So I had to add it in the Peacock news.
It is in the Weekly Peacock, forever set in digital stone.
Set in stone. Do you have any more news for us? Because that's the last bit of news I got.
That wraps the news for me. If you want to hit that ticker.
Boom, boom. That was the news. Lots of people might come back, but nobody will care when they do. Well, always following the news, we get a little overrated, underrated real quick here. So this is going to be overrated, underrated, and I use the term loosely. High-flying moves, moves off the top rope is what I'm talking about.
Alrighty.
Overrated or underrated, the Swanton Bomb.
Oh, my God. I have hated the Swanton Bomb since it debuted in November of 1963 at the Cow Palace Arena, back when Jeff Hardy first did it.
And they called it the Senton Bomb.
I hate that fucking move. Just to be clear, Swanton and Senton are the same thing, right?
As far as I understand, and then it
All right.
turned into the Swanton, but nonetheless, we'll just go with Jeff Hardy's version, the Swanton.
So it's a front flip off the top rope. You're taking the entire bump on your tailbone and your back, and you're landing your head on your opponent's abdominal range. And I guess it's the equivalent of dropping an 8-pound bowling ball on somebody, but you're gonna shatter your tailbone in the meantime. So completely overrated. I hate it.
Completely overrated. I hate it. Overrated, underrated, high-flying moves, the moonsault.
The moonsault is another one. It looks nice, and it was a big visual move for the 90s, and for non-athletic wrestlers who could pull that off, it was a wow move. But to me, it's completely overrated because you're jumping blind and you're doing a backflip, and the backflip doesn't add anything to the splash. It's much more quick and efficient to just hop on the top rope and do a damn splash, for Christ's sake. Overrated.
Overrated. Overrated, underrated off the high-flying moves list, the flying elbow.
Thank goodness. I was waiting for this one. Finally, one that's underrated. So, depends who do it. Obviously, made famous by the Macho Man. The precision of Macho Man's elbow and that, it just looks devastating. You're taking a good shot to your ass and your hip when you're landing on the ground, but the placement of that elbow could have very serious repercussions to your opponent, but it's not a high, flashy, swan-tony move, so it doesn't get the love it deserves. Top rope elbow, underrated.
We're kind of doubling up here a little bit, but it's slightly different. Overrated, underrated, the shooting star press.
Shooting star press belongs in the same category as the moonsault. Yeah. It's overrated, but it's a little less overrated because what that does is really shows your athleticism. It's a show off move, and only the elite, nothing to do with AEW. Elite athletes such as Brock Lesnar can pull it off, and even sometimes he fucks it up, as we saw in that one match against Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
So shooting star press is slightly overrated.
Overrated, underrated, the coup de grace, made famous by Finn Balor, his jump off the top rope and stomp into your chest or your stomach.
I love the coup de grace. I don't think it gets the love it deserves because you need pure precision not to cave in your opponent's chest. And that's why we don't see a ton of them on TV, and only experts such as Finn Balor can pull that off. So I would say that's an underrated move there.
And this one's just for fun, because throwing in a sixth one here, overrated, underrated, the tope suicida.
Oh my God, Brian. Now this one falls into a category of its own. If it was done once every couple weeks, maybe on a pay-per-view here and there, like it was in the 90s or in early 2000s. An over-the-rope dive, it was like, holy shit, and that's a lot of weight coming down. But as it's been used, topes are being used, especially over there on TNT, 7 or 8 times a night. And because they're so overused, they're not written properly. You just have guys standing around in clusters, just waiting to catch people. It's a move that once was underrated and now has completely blown up into overrated status. So thumbs down, fuck the tope suicida, and fuck Excalibur every time he says it.
Well, I knew where that was going, but that one was just for fun. That is overrated, underrated. That was high-flying moves, basically moves just leaving your feet. So let's go ahead and move on and tear apart the pieces of Money in the Bank.
All right, we're going to switch venues here. I don't have a WWE background, so we're just going to the brick wall NWO here, and we will hop into this clusterfuck that we are calling WWE Money in the Bank 2021. Did you get a chance to watch the pre-show, Brian?
I did. I'm having a brain fart on what it was. Remind me here.
It was the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Mysterios, Dominic and Rey, father and son. We get it done against Jimmy and Jey Uso. So
yes, sir. You think your dog just exploded?
She hit the helicopter with her earlobes there, and but yeah, I did not watch this. But we have new SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos.
It was a pre-show match, meaning it happened, it existed, nothing to write home about. It was, the Mysterios and the Usos. Usos put on a great match. Rey Mysterio can wrestle, and Dominic's still learning. They carried him
after God. He's been signed and been training for God. It's got to be at least 2 or 3 years. He's been training with WWE, and he is still greener than frog shit.
It's just
it drives me bananas.
He had 3 guys to kind of get him through it, and they did what they did. And the surprising thing was that you had a title change on a pre-show, and that kind of set the mood for the night for me, going, all right, this might be interesting. Some things might happen. We got live crowds back. We got a full arena. We're changing titles at a pre-show for the Tag Team Championship. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
And more rewards for habitual drunk drivers. The night just is fantastic. We're going to start the main show here, Brian. We're going to start things off with the women's Money in the Bank match. We've got Asuka. We've got Naomi. We've got Alexa Bliss. We've got Nikki Cross, almost a superhero. We've got Liv Morgan. We've got Zelina Vega. We got Natalia. And we've got Tamina.
So the first
Holy cannoli.
Yeah, we are loaded here. We are packed to the gills. First off, the entrances took about 22 minutes of this show. You can also probably, if you were watching this and put 2 and 2 together, you could have eliminated right off the bat Snuka and Natty because they are the tag team champions. So you didn't see that coming. It wouldn't be a big enough rift in that team to have one win it, to drive a wedge between them, to separate them, to create a feud. It wouldn't have mattered. Natalia wins it. Nobody cares about either one of them, right? So you
True.
You put them right out of it. So you knock them right out of it. They just had to have Natty in there because she's a ring general. Even though the crowd doesn't care for her, they needed her in there to talk through the show.
Yeah, and then immediately you can eliminate Zelina Vega because nobody would take it seriously if she was carrying around that briefcase.
It had I gave her about a 2% chance because of the drama and she's back. Maybe. She was like a wild card maybe for me. My money was on Alexa Bliss. My money was on maybe what was the other one you said? Not Nikki Cross. We'll talk about that later. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Who was the other girl that you said? Liv Morgan. Sorry.
Liv Morgan.
Those were my 2 go-tos.
Yeah, I honestly had my money on either Asuka or Naomi. Um, Asuka, just because they love toying with her. They love giving her that belt or giving her the chance to get the belt and then just ripping it away from her. They've done it to her a million times, and I thought this was just 1,000,001.
Yeah, this match was it was standard Money in the Bank style matches, ladder matches. It was your 2 or 3 in, your 4 or 5 disappear, and then you rotate 2 or 3 in and out of the ring, and that's kind of how it went most of the night.
Pretty much, that's what it was. It was everybody taking turns being injured or tired and hanging out on the outside of the ring, and then so 2 people at a time can do shit to each other. We did get some weird moments here. Alexa Bliss is just standing on the second rope for probably the first 5 minutes of this match, and as much as I hate goofy shit in wrestling, Alexa Bliss is so committed to this character and so committed to being a fucking freak of nature that I was sold on her just standing on that second rope like a fucking weirdo while everyone else was fighting.
Yeah, for one, we can kind of even rewind back a touch. She got up there on that middle rope and stood there awkwardly during everybody else's introduction. She was the first one out. So the entire time, the bell rings, everybody does the drop and roll out to go grab a ladder, and she just stands there, and then she finally makes her way to the middle of the ring, and she puts her hand up like she's going to use her magical Papa Shango powers and draw it down, and then somebody comes in and mollywops her with a ladder or a chair or something, and we move on from there.
Yeah, and then we get to a point in this match where we've got Liv Morgan and Natalia just holding the ladder in the middle of the ring so that girls can take turns doing spots on it and or over it or under it or on top of it. And it's goofy shit that they looked so awkward, them being Liv Morgan and Natty just holding the ladder and just letting people do shit. And it was just, I was mentally checking out already at that point.
Yep. There was a few spots again where it was there was no storytelling. There was no storytelling, but there was minimal storytelling of the match for a while. It was just kind of a free-for-all vibe is what it felt like. Just people doing things that they felt like doing or getting their spots in and then moving on. And then it did evolve as we got towards the middle end of this thing that it started to make a little more sense to me.
Well, not quite yet, because we got to hit the crescendo of the weird shit here.
Well, yes.
We got Zelina Vega and Alexa Bliss at the top of the ladder, and we get the Alexa Bliss hypnotized spot where she stares into Zelina's eyes, and then they mirror each other like 2 retarded mimes. And Alexa Bliss has Zelina climb down the ladder, and then when Zelina's at the bottom of the ladder, Alexa Bliss shoots right back up the ladder and tries to get the belt. But she is thwarted by one of the other 32 women in this match.
Thwarted. The goofy spot that I hated was, forget who was climbing the ladder because it doesn't really matter. Didn't even mean to rhyme that there. You had Snuka laying on her back, and they put the ladder over top of her, as in to pin her down. Am I jumping too ahead for you here? And then they had her pinned down, and it was like she was choking her, and she's struggling like it's choking her. And then when that person, God, I wish I knew who was climbing it. It might have been Liv Morgan. Climbing the ladder, then all of a sudden she can get her hands underneath it, bench presses it up, tips him over, then they slam it back down on her again, and then she's wobble. The unfortunate thing is the spot would have been okay if the camera wouldn't have been so tight on it. You saw that there was about 4 inches between her neck and the bottom rung of the ladder that was supposedly choking her and pinning her down. Now, did it make it easier for her to get out? Probably not. Her big head can't squeeze through the ladder, through the rungs. Okay, she's trapped in there. She's weaseled in. But to pretend like she was choking, I mean, it was as clear as day. She was nowhere near choking.
Yeah, I kind of chalked it up to maybe it was claustrophobia, Brian, because I know if I was trapped underneath a ladder like that and I couldn't get out,
It was just
Whether I was choking or not, I'd be freaked out.
right. It was just a little much for me. That was one of the spots that I didn't care for. But we'll continue on and push through this thing.
Oh yeah, believe me, I was watching that and going, "Oh my god, are you fucking serious?" We get a pretty cool spot with the ladder is bridged between the corner on the middle rope there. You got Zelina Vega is laying on this ladder that's bridged across the ropes. Naomi power bombs Liv Morgan onto Zelina Vega, and that was it made a lot of noise, and it was visually fantastic, and that was that was a pretty decent spot. I liked it.
Yes. That was a good one.
And let's see. Oh my god, this right here, Brian, the most embarrassing thing in this match and the absolute worst catch me spot I've ever seen in my whole entire career of watching professional wrestling. Nikki Cross, the superhero and not the superhero in training. She is shit though. The almost superhero, Nikki Cross, climbs up on top of the ladder and she is just soaking up the attention. And she is on top of this ladder for a fucking eternity. Meanwhile, we've got 6 or 7 other females just standing in the ring, all clustered together and awkwardly acting like they're fighting each other just so they can wait the full 30 seconds for Nikki Cross to finally decide to jump off the top of this ladder, all for a shitty catch me spot. And it was ugly and it was embarrassing.
If you don't know, now you know. We, and especially myself, hate the random stand there clustered up catch me spot. That is the infamy so this is when everybody's clustered together just standing there waiting. If you're not familiar with the catch me spot, like they're doing something, everybody look busy, the boss is coming, and then waiting for somebody to jump. The spot doesn't make sense. You take out the teams, take out teams, good guys taking out good guys, bad guys taking it. Just is nonsense. In a match like this, taking out the entire roster of people can make sense. That's fine with me. But the wait is an eternity for most times, and this one was exactly that.
Yeah, it was the worst of them all. And then we're approaching the end of this match here. The girls, they all decide they've got to come together. They got to team up. They've got to take out this Papa Shango witch doctor, Alexa Bliss, and they get her outside of the ring on the floor, and they all decide to grab ladders and pile up every ladder they can find on top of Alexa Bliss. And they're all celebrating for some reason. Girl power come together, and nobody notices Liv Morgan climbing back into the ring and climbing the ladder very slowly so that she can eventually get caught and knocked off the ladder.
Let's take this back for a second. Let's pause and do some fantasy talk now. Just what would have happened. Let's take the crowd away. We're back at the Thunderdome. It's Money in the Bank. Tell me what you think. And they pile the ladders. Everything so far has basically happened to the same spot. They pile the ladders onto Nikki Cross, onto Alexa Bliss. Now, mind you, she's this demon witch doctor that can do whatever she chooses these days. How cheesy would that spot have been to pile all those ladders on there? Do you think she would have reappeared into the ring? Do you think the lights would have, there would have been a lights out, or it would have, because they could have edited it, right? They could have had her literally get up and run around and crawl under the ring and go over here, and then she would have been, it wouldn't have been Liv Morgan on the ladder. By the time they were done celebrating, it would have been cut and edited, and Alexa Bliss would have been at the top of the ladder. That's my call.
100%. If crowds weren't involved, that's exactly how it would have went down. We would have had camera tricks and movie shots galore.
So let's just say thanks for the live crowds being back, because they had to really tighten that stuff up. And this was just a wrestling match, with ladders at the end of the day.
Yeah, and this thing was just full of bad spots. The way we ended this thing, Brian, was 3 ladders in the middle of the ring. 6 women on these 3 ladders, all duking it out. And nobody's paying enough attention to notice that the almost superhero Nikki Cross scales up the middle ladder and past everyone else and goes ahead and snags that briefcase. And Nikki Cross is your Mrs. Money in the Bank.
I did like the ending because what it sold to me in the story of this almost superhero gimmick that she has going on is that nobody's paying attention to her. She's not being noticed. So these girls are on the ladder. They're beating each other up. There's 7 in the ring, right? And there's 6 and 6 now. Boom, the last person is Nikki Cross. You're not thinking about her. You see her just scale right up, and you're expecting, just because she's so not the person that was supposed to win, that even as a fan, I'm watching it and went, she's just going to get in the mix, get knocked down. Somebody's going to grab the title. This thing's about ready to wrap up. And then I go, holy crap, she's grabbing and she wins. It was a cool, it came together nicely for me because of that. Love or hate Nikki Cross. She's, there was true celebration in her eyes when she was up there on that new WWE stage that they had redesigned up for us. So I was happy for her. She seemed to, she earned it. She worked her ass off, and I think it was well played and well told, as that nobody paid attention to her, and boom, she won it. So, hey, I like it. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm digging that storyline there. Nobody pays attention to little Nikki Cross, and she comes out of nowhere, and her superhero gimmick pays off. And I have to take a small break, so if you want to do our plugs, I should be back in time so we can hop on the Viking Raiders versus AJ Styles and Omos.
That all very important plug. So, guys, head on over to all of our social media outlets. That's right. Head on over to Facebook, head on over to Instagram, and head on over to YouTube, where we are currently at right now, live streaming this. If you're listening to the audio version on the podcast, share it with a friend, hop on iTunes, hop on Spotify, leave a review, and join that. All social media platforms are the KayFabe Smark, and the KayFabe Smark, KayFabe Smark podcast. Jump on there, join our groups, join the Instagram, follow us on TikTok, like and subscribe on YouTube, leave some reviews, leave some comments, do all of that stuff. Eric had to go take his pup out, and this is a live recorded show, so that's the way it goes. He is coming back right now as we speak. I can see his chair moving. We'll get going here in a second. We are talking about Money in the Bank. We are talking about pro wrestling. If you guys did not check out AEW, they got Nick Gage coming back next week. Nick Gage, not coming back, debuting in front of the public on TV, fighting Chris Jericho. We have no idea what that could be like. So, tune into that. We'll be talking about Fight for the Fallen next week, and because there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening over there. What else we got going on? I'd like to do some watch-alongs again. We need to dig into the archives, find something to watch, even if it's just a match. Maybe we start doing that. Doing some watch-alongs, Eric Todd. You're not here to agree, so I can vote upon that. If you're watching live, please hold on. Eric will be right back. His dog was driving him nuts. And he's back. Had to get the puppers out and get situated.
Yeah, my dog was having a mild panic attack. She was over here on this side of the screen. So I am back. And the plugs are done, and we are into the Viking Raiders taking on AJ Styles and Omos, the Raw Tag Team Champions.
All right. This match was, if I could fast forward live TV, I would have tried to do that.
This match was rotten, Brian.
I just didn't care. But that's not anybody in this match's fault. I liked the Viking Raiders in NXT. They were great. I like AJ Styles. Almost I can almost deal without him. But these are all great workers, but what happens is don't really care about the tag team championship. You forget about it, and the reason I don't care about it is not showing any love on TV. So then you get tag teams fighting for it, and you go, what do I care for? And especially mixed weird tag teams, so I didn't care about this match. I wasn't invested in it by any means.
Yeah, this is going to be a quick run through of this one. Funny moment I caught right off the get was Pat McAfee is talking about how comfortable Omos is in the ring. As the words are coming out of McAfee's mouth, Omos kind of half kicks one of the Viking Raiders that's laying on the mat and almost falls over Brian. A little jab kick, and he's walking, and he almost falls over, but he is so comfortable in that ring.
He is comfortable. Now, we want to talk about comfortable and who's comfortable on WWE TV is Pat McAfee. Man, this guy's made for commentary, and he's made for commentary in front of live people. He was dressed up. He had his whole thing going. He's a. I hope they don't lose him anytime soon. But we'll continue with this match.
Yeah, they definitely need to keep him around. We get a cool spot here with Omos throwing AJ Styles out of the ring directly into a Hurricanrana, and I mean, all Omos did in that one was basically be strong, and the other two guys involved in the spot took care of the rest.
Almost be entertaining.
Yeah. Almost.
We got a theme going here. Almost fell over, almost was here, almost did this. What do you do now?
The terribleness of this match revolves around Omos. We got him trying to show off his strength. He's gonna gorilla press Ivar, the chubbier of the two Viking Raiders. He's got him in a gorilla press position, but he can't press him up. So he just kind of drops him forward right on his fat face. And that was a fart in the wind if we're really trying to show off Omos' strength here.
Yeah, he didn't sell over that one very well. Should have rethought that. He could have just picked him up and dumped him and just went for it. But when you know he's going to attempt something to press him and then can't do it, yeah, he's a silly goose.
And then just more almost goofiness here. So you got the Viking Raiders double teaming Omos here. And they're trying to show Omos as this monster, this giant. He can't get knocked off of his feet, but at the same time, he's trying to sell. And he's just wobbling all over the place like a drunk sailor. His eyes are twitching and rolling around, and his head's bobbling around. His facial expressions look like Kamala when he's trying to sell here, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Finally, this thing comes to an end, and the spot is supposed to be Eric of the Viking Raiders here, running towards Omos. Omos is supposed to pick him up by his head, slam him. Well, Omos either gets a really bad grip or Eric doesn't jump in time or something, so he fucks that up and has to do it twice. Finally slams Eric down, gets the 1, 2, 3, and nobody in that crowd seemed to give two shits.
No. And that's unfortunate. But because for these guys, they did go out and work, and then they just can't get over, and that's terrible. So hopefully the people being back in these live audiences now will spill the tea that we don't care. Let's move the titles off of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, this just completely showcased how green Omos is. He makes Kevin Nash look like Dean Malenko out there with how awkward and just goofy is. I couldn't wait to get past this match and on to what I thought was going to be a good match. I actually had hopes for this one. Kofi Kingston and Bobby Lashley.
You had hopes for this one?
I did, because how long is Kofi going to just allow himself to just be a jobber for big guys? I thought this was his coming out party, and Kofi Kingston was going to make his run to, maybe be a top contender again. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't invested in this one either just because I saw through this one. This is like when Kofi Kingston fought Brock Lesnar on the 4th of July about 5 years ago in Japan, and you were just like, what's the point in this? Went out there, got treated like a rag doll, and moved on. People paid to see that, by the way.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this was. Kofi got a quick start on Bobby Lashley here, and then Bobby Lashley takes over and never stops, throwing Kofi around like a rag doll, so to speak, completely manhandles him, puts him in the Hurt Locker, and it's a wrap on Kofi, just counting the lights again.
That was a glorified squash match, unfortunately. You know, they gave Kofi the title. He's in the record books as holding a championship, but you know, after that, it's a wrap.
Yeah, I like Kofi. He's extremely talented, but man, they just fed him to Bobby Lashley like Ryback. Feed me more.
And he wanted more. Go ahead. What was next?
We finally get a good match out of this pay-per-view, Brian. We have Charlotte Flair taking on Rhea Ripley, the Raw champion, the Raw Women's champion. And this was match of the night.
This
by
was
far
100. This was a very good match. I knew you were going to like it. It had two of your favorites in it. But besides that, it was just because they are the two of the best in the business right now. They put on a hell of a match, and it was very entertaining.
Just from the very beginning, the facial expressions between these two girls, Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, brought this match up an entire notch because they look like they absolutely despise each other. And that the facial expressions and selling, so to speak, even though we're just selling emotions at this point, just completely contribute to how good this match was. These two girls, before they even touched, I knew they wanted to kill each other, and it looked authentic.
Well, you know where they went 100% right with this match is that there was a story here. There was backstory. There was previous matches. There was Charlotte Flair's back. There was Rhea Ripley and Charlotte NXT. There was a lot of stuff that they brought up, made sense, and you were invested in. Go back to the previous match. Why did Kofi Kingston fight Bobby Lashley? We don't know. They drew the short straw. But why is this match happening? Because they hate each other, because they're both the best, and they're both trying to prove it. And it made you want to watch it. And you picked your side. I want Charlotte. You want Rhea. I'm not, for example, and yay boo. The crowd split down the middle. And eventually, what happens is everybody wins because everybody's entertained.
Right. And in this match in particular, I know the props go to both girls because as much as Rhea Ripley is already polished and fantastic in that ring, Charlotte Flair is on top of that, making Rhea Ripley look amazing.
Right. Charlotte stood on top and pulled whatever Rhea was lacking in. Charlotte stood up and pulled her up. Said, "We're bringing it up to another level tonight," and she brought her up. And the good thing is that Rhea is such a good wrestler that she went with it. She didn't fight against it and go, "This is unknown territory. I'm not supposed to be here." She didn't look stiff. She looked like she was supposed to belong there. It was a great match.
Yeah. And the audience was into it too. I believe what I saw online was that the audience was chanting, "We want Becky." And Charlotte went ahead and welcomed that chant back by flipping the audience the bird. And the Peacock tried to censor it by blacking out the entire screen, but they were about 2 seconds too late on that one.
I thought it was great. You could feel that was off script. The crowd got to her, they popped her, and they won. And I love that. And then I love that Charlotte went with it and didn't ignore it like it's not happening. So that explains it. Plants the seed for, is Becky coming back? She reacted to something about Becky coming back. Is there something coming back? It creates scuttlebutt. It's all great stuff, man. This was all amazing. I loved all of this.
Yeah, and it sets up when this Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair thing finally wraps up, and we put a nice bow on it and put it in the corner. It already starts something for a Charlotte and Becky Lynch feud, so it's all working fantastic.
100%. Do you have anything,
All right,
any spots in here you want to discuss?
we get some pretty cool spots here. Rhea Ripley goes for her patented cannonball off the ring apron gimmick here, and of course Charlotte dodges, and Rhea hit the ground hard. She took that bump like a champ. I know it was planned, but boy, that looked rough. I wouldn't want to take that flippy cannonball, boy. Charlotte is doing great at playing dirty. She's a carbon copy of her dad in a good way. She knows how to be sneaky and underhanded and not blatantly bullshitting, cheating.
That's what I was gonna say. Is Becky or Charlotte? I'm sorry, is great at the little dirty things, not this
Right.
over the top 76 people involved in a match and this, that, and the other thing, and using anything but the kitchen sink. It's just little stuff. It's a poke in the eye. It's a step on the toe. It's a distract the referee and do this or do that. Untie the shoelaces, untie the boots of the other person. All these little things. That's the stuff I love. That's the dirtiest player in the game stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. We get a German suplex on Charlotte from Rhea Ripley that looked like I know it went smooth and she landed perfectly, but it looked absolutely brutal. You almost expected them to bring out a wheelchair for Charlotte Flair after taking this German suplex. That thing was a beautiful disaster, I guess would be the way to put it.
Best way to put it. Correct. Yeah, they didn't hold anything back. These girls lit it up and were really laying it on pretty hard. So throwing some nice working potatoes, I'm sure, if you want to call them those. Like, let's make it look real, so let's have it be real.
Yeah, we definitely see a potato at one point. This wasn't even my notes, but you woke up the memory here. Rhea had Charlotte from behind. Charlotte decides she's going to throw an elbow at Rhea's temple here. And on the replay, that was 100% contact. If that was a working shot, she put a lot of oomph into it. It was probably a 90% shot. That elbow and tricep connected to Rhea's head so hard, and it just splatted her face.
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember oofing to that when I was watching that. That was a good spot.
Yeah, and we're approaching the end of this match now, and this is where the momentum really picks up. This is where the girls really start to show off. We get a ton of reversals. We get a ton of false finishes, a lot of just complicated but beautiful maneuvers out of these two. Rhea does this complicated lift out of a Charlotte Flair sunset flip, and Rhea has Charlotte up and some sort of headlock, weird gimmicky thing, and just muscles her up for a vertical suplex. It's a little shaky, but it took all strength. There was no help from Charlotte on that other than being as limp as possible and letting it happen.
Yeah.
Charlotte's kicks are completely spot on and they look stiff as fuck. And then Charlotte counters a riptide from Rhea Ripley here into a DDT. And this is where selling comes back into it. That is one thing that I would say a lot of the newer stars are missing. And it just seems to be the new style of wrestling is you don't sell shit. You just hurry up and get to your next spot. This DDT that Rhea Ripley took, you didn't even have to see her hit the mat. You just look at her face. Her eyes are wide open and rolled in the back of her head, and she looks lifeless. She sold the shit out of that move, and that was another one where if they brought out a stretcher, I would have believed it.
Yeah, the art of selling has definitely been buried upon just getting the next thing in because we live in a 30-second, 60-second highlight reel of life with, Instagram and the social media platforms these days. So Unfortunately, I think that's coming and soaked into the professional wrestling where everything's just a quick highlight reel, not a long storytelling purpose.
Right. Everybody's out there to get a viral TikTok basically out of a wrestling match. So it's just 30 or 60 seconds at a time. That's all we're focusing on. This thing's reaching its conclusion here. Rhea Ripley throws Charlotte outside of the ring. She's leaning between the ropes to grab her. Again, Charlotte looking stiff as fuck. Grabs Rhea Ripley's head and slams it into the ring post. Then this is a spot I haven't seen before. There's a small gap between the ring steps and the post there. She puts Rhea Ripley's leg into that little gap and kicks the steps 3 times, and Rhea sells the shit out of her leg. Charlotte gets back in the ring, puts Rhea Ripley in the figure 4, and the perfect way to end this thing, besides the fact that the person I chose did not win, but if Charlotte had to win, this was definitely the way to do it. She hurt Rhea Ripley's leg, put her in the figure 4, and Rhea actually tapped out.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't mad either because they put on a good match. When they put on a good match and the person that I want to retain or win the title loses, I can move on. I'm not 4 anymore. It doesn't matter to me that way that it's like, oh no, Rhea Ripley's not the champion. But they put on a great match. I sat there and watched it. I got involved in the false finishes. The whole thing was great. I can't, put this match over anymore. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch it.
Yeah, definitely. These two are definitely show stealers. And it was nice, although we did have our false finishes in there, it ended at a logical point and there wasn't any goofy shit involved. Middle of the ring, they managed to have Rhea Ripley tap out to a submission, to a heel, and it didn't hurt her one bit. If anything, it just made you more interested in Rhea Ripley and more interested in this storyline. But either way, at this point, Sunday night, Charlotte Flair is your new Raw Women's Champion.
At this point, and then if you go on to Monday night, we'll change that story. But we'll move on and keep talking about Sunday night.
Sunday. We move on to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We got a nice long list of competitors in this one, too. We've got Kevin Owens. We've got Matt Riddle. We've got Shinsuke Nakamura. We've got Ricochet. For what reason, I don't know. We've got John Morrison. We've got Big E Langston. We've got Seth Rollins. And we have got Drew McIntyre.
You called him Big
So
E
I
Langston.
guess first things first, Brian. Who are we eliminating out of this mix that absolutely makes no sense to have a Money in the Bank contract?
Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
Riddle, he's out. Ricochet's out. I want Ricochet in, but he's out. I'm looking at pure logical wrestling. I put KO as a possibility. He could run around. That would be interesting. Big E was up there towards the top. He had been kind of getting the old shove. And who else did we have in there, you said? I eliminated what's-his-name, too. Morrison was out.
Yeah, eliminate Morrison. Shinsuke was a possibility for me. He was kind of a wild card.
Shinsuke's the wild card. He could go either way. I put Big E, KO, Shinsuke in the yes. I put... and then the rest of them over there in the no. There might have been one more in the yes. I can't think of everybody that was in this match.
Right, and that's the problem with this thing. It's chaos just trying to remember who's in the motherfucker, and then it's just chaos from the time the bell rings. We've just got everybody fighting everybody. Heels fighting heels, baby faces fighting babyface, and everything in between. And then we finally get the ring clear so we can get our 1v1 with Drew McIntyre and Big E Langston in the middle of the ring. And I think those are our top 2 choices of who's going to win this thing.
Drew would be up there as well because, A, being a former champion of just recently and being pretty over these days. So I'd put Drew up there with the rest of them. So we continue on.
Yeah. This is just a bunch of guys doing moves to each other. No flow to the show. And Kevin Owens continues his legacy of taking stupid bumps. Near the beginning of this match, we've got a ladder laying on its side, completely stiff as a fucking rock. And KO decides, I'm going to take a double suplex on this thing because I love taking stupid bumps. And I still think I'm in Ring of Honor working with El Generico for some reason.
When I saw that, I went, Eric's going to hate that spot. I mean, it was a really cool looking spot, let's be honest. It looked great. It sounded great. Everything about it looked like it hurt because it probably did, but it also probably took about 6 years off of his career.
Right. I think it's the Cactus Jack mindset. I'm going to go out there and steal the show by taking stupid bumps. The only difference is Cactus Jack did it in one-on-one matches, so his match could steal the show. Kevin Owens does this shit at the dumbest times, such as a match where there's 7 other people running around.
That's going to be
nobody's going to remember that bump. It's going to live on this podcast until YouTube goes out of business. But yeah, other than that, out of this match, nobody's going to remember KO taking that stupid ass bump.
Not only taking the stupid ass bump in the mix of 7 to 8 people, however many people are in this thing, he took it in like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than 10, under 10-minute mark, boom, he had already done. Now, if that's how it goes off the air, if you will, or if that's how it goes, the win goes down because of that, maybe. Maybe you're giving me something, right? Because then you're going, hey, that's what happened. KO had been a contender. Boom, he takes his spot. 1, 2, 3. You're gonna be. At least your spot will probably be in a highlight reel of somebody else winning, of you taking that bump. But this is the first 10 minutes. This thing's getting buried and will never be seen the light of day again.
Precisely. At one point in this match, we've got Drew McIntyre completely cleaning house, and he's starting to rise to the top as, you know what? Maybe Drew's ready for another chance. Maybe he's ready for another push because it's really looking like he's going to be the one to get this briefcase in this match.
Now, we've talked about this match for the women's match and for this match having what we say too many people. Now, would you like to see this match have less people, maybe 4, and get rid of the other 3? Or do you need the other 3 to be bodies in the ring to catch people and to make for more chaos in what a Money in the Bank or a ladder match is? Now, mind you, Shawn and Razor did this a couple times with just the 2 of them and put on a hell of a ladder match. So, do you need the bodies in there?
Absolutely not. This thing would be less watered down, and you could focus on the spots and focus on the stars. If the Ricochets, again, I know he's a fan favorite, but if the Ricochets were taken out of this match, if the who was one of the other, if the Matt Riddles were taken out of this match, and you bring up Shawn and Razor, but I'll bring up Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian. That was a 4-man ladder match. Dudley Boys with either Edge and Christian or Hardy Boys, a 4-man ladder match.
Even when they had
made it work.
Even when they had all 6 men in there, when they had the Hardys, Dudleys, and I forget, Hardys, Dudleys, Edge, and Christian, all 6 of them, at least the 2 men were working together, right? Edge and Christian together. So you had basically a 3-on-3 with multiple bodies going in there. But this is 7 guys all after their own story.
Right. So it's just chaos and clusterfucks.
I think we got a title.
But without 32 people in this match, Brian, I don't know how well Drew McIntyre's dick flip would have went, where he that's what I'm calling his tope suicida from now on, ever since we saw it was at WrestleMania.
Hit that dick piece.
Good friend of the show, Andy's favorite spot that we've seen so far, where he twiddles his dick piece on the top rope. McIntyre dives over the top rope. I don't know if his dick got wiggled on this one or not, but either way, 7 people were on the outside of the ring waiting to catch him, and that's he clears the rest of the crowd like a set of bowling pins. McIntyre's climbing the ladder. This is his moment. He's back in the mix, and it's ruined by Jinder Mahal and his cronies. I can't remember their names, but two bearded fucks.
Guy A and Guy B. I didn't even know Jinder Mahal was back, let alone two of his fucking cronies.
I didn't know either, and I didn't give a shit.
Anyway, the 3MB members have no love lost between them, do they?
Guess not. Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre go ahead and brawl for a little bit, and he's out of the mix. Matt Riddle, I guess he was in this thing, pushes Ricochet off the ladder. That was this thing. The two guys that I didn't want involved in this match are in the back of the room saying, hey, look, I'm here too, guys. Matt Riddle pushing Ricochet off the ladder. Ricochet springboards off the top rope and does a swan dive to the outside, and three of the remaining guys are waiting there to catch him.
I guess he's in this match.
And then two guys we haven't even talked about at all in this match decide, hey, we're in this match too, guys. We've got John Morrison and Shinsuke Nakamura on top of a ladder, and we've done everything else in this match except a water gun spot, so we might as well throw in a fucking water gun spot at this point. And this was a shit show, Brian. What'd I say? Chaos and clusterfucks?
Chaos and clusterfucks.
Then we got Kevin Owens. I guess he survived that bump from earlier, and he's on his way to take another stupid bump because he's climbing the ladder, and he waits patiently for Seth Rollins to powerbomb him over the top rope to the outside, landing on and breaking a ladder that's bridged between the announce table and the ring. It's been bridged there for about a half an hour, and nobody moved it or accidentally bumped it off or anything. It just waited there patiently for KO to go through this thing and absolutely knock the shit out of the back of his head. And I think that's concussion number 37 for KO. So we'll see how we'll look for him on the wrestling news sites in about 20 years for the results of CTE.
Yeah. This thing, again, there was a lot going on. There was a lot to digest. It was just constant chaos and clusterfucks.
I don't know how you're going to spell that for the podcast world. But
chaos and clusterfunks. Anyway. There we go. We're going to move on. This thing, the funny thing is we've talked about a lot of this match now, and we haven't even touched on the guy who won it yet. So it's like, where has he been,
no,
right?
Not at all. What has Big E done in this match? Nothing memorable, at least. And then at some point, we got Seth Rollins climbing up the ladder, and this is where Big E comes out, and Big E does a big ending off the ladder, which was very visually pleasing. That looked nice. It was smooth, and it was brutal. Big E ends up climbing the ladder after that spot, and Big E is Mr. Money in the Bank.
Seth was another one that was on my wild card, that he doesn't need to win it to be anything else. He's already Seth Rollins. So he was on that wild card. He was in up or down. He was just going to play a role of some kind. That was it.
Yeah,
but Big E wins, and we'll see where he goes with this. What do you think about Big E winning?
I think Big E is, I think he deserves it. I think he's a hell of a worker. He has a great personality, and he's believable. But I don't think he's ready to carry a belt. So I think he's going to be one of the very few losers, so to speak, that cash in their Money in the Bank and don't end up getting anything out of it.
Or does he carry this thing for like a year and pull an edge and gain the momentum, have some fake out moments, and really start to put himself on the map as Big E, the singles guy that's, one of the guys to be to carry the strap?
I think WWE likes him, but I don't think they like him that much where they're going to build a year of storylines around him. I unfortunately think he's going to cash this thing in rather quickly and fail at it.
Well, there you go.
And we are on to our main event of the evening here. We've got Edge, the rated R superstar, taking on the head of the table, Roman Reigns, for your WWE Universal Championship.
I like this match setup for the big fight feel. They did good setting that up. The vignettes, the introductions, the everything going down to the, everything that happened. It had a big fight feel to it, and the match itself, as we talk about it, had a big fight feel to it because it felt like it meant something. So they did it right there. Now there's some flaws. We won't go about all saying it was perfect, but they made it feel like it was something, and we'll continue on talking about it from that point.
Right, from an emotional standpoint, from a storyline standpoint, this thing was set up perfectly. The execution, little lackluster. You got the Roman Reigns signature here. The match has to move slower than molasses. This thing was just dragging probably the first 15 minutes or so. We get a little comedy bit here where Roman Reigns gets a little potty mouth going where he's shouting at Edge, "Who's the bitch now?" And Michael Cole tries to clean that up for Peacock, a little Peacock ass kisser there, a little peacock sucker, if you will. And exclaims to the audience, "Do you hear Roman Reigns? He's shouting, 'Who's the boss now?'"
So I missed that.
I don't know. Michael Cole's trying to set up a feud between Sasha Banks and Roman Reigns here.
Vince was in his ear. "You say who's the boss?"
Who's the boss now? Tony Danza.
Say Tony Danza came down.
At one point, Roman Reigns has Edge in a chin lock, and I swear the length of this chin lock, I could have watched the fucking Lord of the Rings trilogy and gotten the whole point of the story by the time this chin lock ended. I thought it was never going to end. Ugh.
Is this the when he was on the ground and had his legs grapevine and he was reaching over is this the move that you were talking about? That headlock, chin lock thing?
Yeah, that one.
Oh my God. Let me make sure we're talking about the right thing here for a second. That was so bad. On top of were they on the ground for about an hour and a half, taking their sweet time. He didn't have his head locked. Roman Reigns took his head in and out of that lock about 62 times, and then anytime that he put his chin back under Edge's hands, Michael Cole would be like, "Oh, I just got it locked in now." It's like, no, he's sick of holding his own head up.
Oh, maybe we are on different spots because this is where Reigns had Edge.
Oh,
this is near the beginning of the
I'm
match.
sorry. I'm talking about the Edge portion. We'll talk about that in a minute. That thing sucked wiener too.
Leave it up to WWE to put 2 15-minute chin locks in a fucking wrestling match. We just have the extremes. You go to AEW and you got 58 moves a minute. And then WWE, we're going to go ahead and waste 20 minutes on rest holds.
Yeah, they did it with both of them got to put it in.
Edge ends up countering a Superman punch into a backslide, and the fucking crowd gets on their feet. You actually see the people getting on their feet. They think this is how this match could end.
Drew McIntyre did win a backslide at SummerSlam last year against Randy Orton. Leave that there. We'll leave that there.
Yeah, I guess, and that popped us. But at this point in this match, I guess it would have caught us out of nowhere, but there was no logical feeling whatsoever that Edge could have just won with a backslide at that point.
I think the crowd is so hungry for Edge has made his comeback. He got injured. The COVID kicked in. There was no crowds, shitty shows. They want Edge to win. They want to see Edge with one more title run. He's back. That's what they want.
And they're going to keep dangling the carrot for as long as they can to keep that crowd behind them. Edge gets his Hulk up moment and hits an execution on Roman Reigns here for a false finish. Edge stomps a mud hole and a what's that, tree of woe on Roman Reigns.
Oh, yeah.
Roman Reigns is tied up upside down in the ropes. Edge stomps a mud hole in him, and he puts him in that cross face. And I think this is the point you were talking about here.
Yeah. I got confused on who you said was in this 24-hour rest hold of a chin lock, but this is the Edge version of the chin lock now on the ground. Very similar to John Cena's STF move, I believe is what they call it there. And this thing was the drizzling shits, as I stated. They had his arms were barely locked in around Roman Reigns' neck. Roman Reigns could look around. He could read a book. He could put his head back and forth. It was terrible. And like I said, anytime that he moved his head into position, it was locked in that Edge is gonna rip Roman Reigns' head off, and it's going, no, he just rested his chin on his elbow again, or on his wrist. So this thing sucked too, and this one took way too long as well. They were on the ground way too long for this.
Yeah, and Roman Reigns finally gets out of this move in the most exciting way possible by grabbing the rope. And
not only did he grab the rope, this part made me so mad too. He grabbed the rope. I almost said the remote. He grabbed the rope in a very dramatic way. So for the audio listeners, checking it out on YouTube, but he just had his hand up, like shaking to grab the rope. That's a move you do before you tap out. You bring your hand up and you're shaking, going, no, I can make it. And you're going, why wouldn't you just grab that rope an eighth of a second after you were within fingertips length of reaching it? You should be like, yeah, got it. Get me out of it. Get me out of it. Get me out of it. I want him fine. He didn't get me out of the move in time. Give it a 5 count. Grab the rope, get the 5 count, win the match. I know that's never happened. It's a pay-per-view. I understand this is all scripted, but my God, don't sell a rope grab.
I'm thinking the point of the spot is he's not supposed to be able to reach the rope. But in this particular
his hand
bad
directly over top of it.
Of the spot, his elbow is bent and his hand is directly over the bottom rope, and he's shaking. Oh my God!
How could I make
it? He's got to sell.
Oh, it was that part made me so mad.
The drizzling shizzles, and Reigns guillotines Edge. Edge pushes him through the ropes to get out of that said guillotine. Roman Reigns misses a spear and ends up going through a perfectly placed barricade because we don't want to bother the audience. And we get a huge
That's where the
pop.
timekeeper sits. Duh.
Yeah, we got to aim for that barricade. And then we get a good pop out of that. That was, the audience is hungry. They want to see big spots. And then we just got to put a little more. We got to sprinkle a little more on top, because right as Roman Reigns is recovering from that, Edge spears him through another perfectly placed barricade, and we get 2 barricade spots, both perfectly placed. Those are the only barricades they could have possibly went through without affecting the audience. And that the fact that they did 2 of them just kind of really laid it on thick that, oh yeah, this shit's planned. This shit's fake.
What I did like about this outside stuff here, they're outside the ring. The referee was counting at a nice rhythm, and they kept breaking the count. Somebody would come in and break the count, make them start over again. So there is this rule. There is the ref is counting. The ref is doing his job. There is a rule that if you break the count, it starts over again. The referee gets mad, he gets irritated, and you move on. They did it several times, and that's fine with me. Then you can be outside of the ring for about 48 hours. I don't care. You just got to make it in every 9 seconds to roll back out.
Well, it is Charles Robinson. It is Little Nate. So he definitely knows how to do his job. He definitely knows how to keep control of a match. But don't give him too much credit too early, Brian, because...
Well, we just bitch about so much on our past shows of AEW having no rules and nobody ever counting. So at least this was happening here for the moment.
Precisely. At the moment, you're like, hell yeah, Charles Robinson, you are in control of this match. You're trying to enforce the rules. But then when Roman Reigns hits Edge with a Superman punch and Edge gingerly falls into Charles Robinson's leg, Charles Robinson sells this leg for about 15 minutes and continually rolls away from the action and looks the other way, eventually rolling out of the ring. And he sells this leg for the rest of the match. We don't see Charles Robinson. And it was the most ginger, misplaced bump I've ever seen. And that's where you got to take Charles Robinson's props away, because either he was in the wrong spot or Edge and Reigns fucked it up. But the fact that he sold a tiny bump for the rest of the match was just too much. It was just too fake.
Why don't they ever call that stuff again? Just the commentators will take care of it. Have faith in that. Oh, Charles Robinson took one off the knee there. He can be distracted again. But the ref, as simple as he does anything else in the match by giving the boys information, just be like, that thing was shit. I'm going to go over in the corner and hit me again. Figure it out.
Right. There's got to be a plan B.
C and D.
Right. But yeah, that thing went to shit there. Charles he does crawl out of the ring so he can be MIA. That way Roman Reigns can get a chair from the outside, break a piece off of the chair, and he's got plans for this metal piece. But Edge foils that plan, ends up getting Roman Reigns into another crossface, and he's using this metal bar almost like that thing horses use to attach the reins there. He's got it between Roman Reigns' teeth, and he's really working in this crossface. But there's no ref, Brian. We're 6-7 minutes into Charles Robinson selling this thing, and nobody thought to send out a second ref by this point.
Not until there's almost a pin.
Right. The Usos come out, and the Usos are going to interfere in this thing. And luckily, the Mysterios lost their titles earlier, so they have beef with the Usos. They come out and thwart their plan to interfere in this thing, and we get a little Uso Mysterio fight off.
I hated that spot. I thought the Usos, should have stayed away. I hated the fact that the Mysterios followed out, because not only did the Mysterios follow out, they followed out too damn close, because they show the Usos come out, and you can see them. I go, there's more people behind them. And so I either thought the Usos were bringing somebody else or whatever was happening, and then it turned out to be the Mysterios, and you're going, well, that was just okay, so they got him. The bad guys came in to outnumber the good guy, and then the other good guys drew him away, and then that was the end of it. It was weirdly placed.
Yeah, the whole thing was just shit. So it was shoehorned in there, the whole spot anyway. It was almost like at the last minute the writers were like, well, I guess if Roman Reigns was in danger of losing, his cousins would come out and save him. But so they kind of jammed that in there. But the fact that the Mysterios were basically attached to the hip to the Usos at that point, it just adds to the fakeness. You know, they were all just sitting in gorilla position, playing patty cake with one another until they hit their cue. And it was just stupid. They had to put no space in between them. It was completely pointless and out of place.
It was either bad writing or bad timing. So it was either that or Vince called a weird audible in the middle of it, and he was like, "Get out there, damn it, and go get him, and you two chase him down." And then like they would just change it in the middle of the show. Just, we got to fill this in. This referee spot looked like shit.
So yeah, that thing happened, and then Seth Rollins makes his appearance, hops in the ring, and breaks up the Edge love party here and kicks him in the head, and goes ahead and takes off.
Setting up a feud there.
Yeah, we think we've seen the last of Seth. We're like, all right, he kicked Edge in the head. Now we got a little Edge Seth thing going on. Charles Robinson still dead to the world. Edge hits a spear on Roman Reigns here, and this is the point where it's, oh my God, I guess it's time to send out a second ref. Edge has been pinning Roman Reigns for about 15 seconds here, and we get a 2 count. Edge sets up for another spear. Seth Rollins makes an encore appearance and distracts Edge. and Roman Reigns hits a spear. 1, 2, 3. It's a wrap on that. Roman Reigns retains his Universal Championship.
Yeah, there was too much rigmarole for this for me. You had the bad ref bump. The ref's not in it. You had a chair across the face. You had a double tag team interference run-in type thing. Now, mind you, they didn't actually make it involved in the match, but they were still there. You had Seth Rollins giving kicks to the back of the head. You had him on the ring. It's like, I get what they're trying to go for, is that safe execution to make Edge still be Edge and he didn't get buried. That there was a lot of things happening to Edge in this match, and there was a lot of things happening in the match, but it was just too much, man. Just get out there and wrestle. What happened to wrestling? Why's it got to be like, oh, if Edge loses, he's buried? No, that's not how it works. We just discussed that with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Rhea lost clean, and if anything, you love her more.
Right. It's almost like, just like you said, they're trying to protect Edge at this point, but Edge is the last guy that needs protecting. He's such a crowd favorite. He's such a baby face. Everyone loves him no matter what. You don't got to protect him by surrounding him with all this chaos and bullshit. Just let him loose clean. Same way Rhea Ripley did, and we would have been fine and dandy. But we can't end the show on that with a Roman Reigns 1, 2, 3. We got to have an afterbirth. We get Seth Rollins again. I have seen way too much Seth Rollins in this 3 hours, Brian. I am sick and tired of the Friday Night Messiah, or whatever the fuck he's calling himself now.
Yeah. I don't even remember what happened here. Lead me through this.
He just comes out and beats the living shit out of Edge.
Okay, yeah, I was like, wait a minute. I was trying to think, like, what did he do? But yeah, that was right. He just came out, beat up Edge, and is leading more into that storyline.
Yeah, and he needs to pick and choose his storylines, because he beats the hell out of Edge and then does a quick little face-off with Roman Reigns before Edge resurrects himself, and him and Rollins fight off because Afterbirth number 2 needs to happen. Reigns grabs a mic, says now the whole world can acknowledge him, and we get the John Cena music.
The Price is Right is live.
Price is Right, come on down. The biggest pop I've heard in over a year and a half. John Cena hits the curtains. Crowd goes bananas. Cena hops in the ring. He's like a fish in water, man. You take him out for however many years he's been gone, and he just slides right back in. You can't see me. Taunts Roman a little bit, and it's a wrap on the show. He climbs the ropes, and that's how we close out this pay-per-view.
He never says a word either, which I actually liked. Sometimes
Right.
I get mad about that, but this one was so over that it just was like, that's all you needed to say. He did the "you can't see me." He flexed his hand, all his little, if you will, Cena gang signs, and did all his moves, and hit the ropes, threw his shirt, threw his hat, whatever, threw the towel, and just go off going, holy shit, we got to watch Monday night. And there you go. That was Monday. Then that leads you into Monday. Quick rundown of that. Monday night, Cena comes out. He's here. He calls Roman Reigns a little bitch. He has a little funny spot with Matt Riddle doing the bro. And then that was all he had to do for Monday night. Cena was out. He was at the gates.
Yeah, basically calls out Roman Reigns. We knew this was going to happen for a while, but the build-up is the fun part when John Cena's involved.
Yeah, and then we'll jump to that. We'll probably talk about just Nikki Cross real quick. We had a Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair rematch happen over there on Raw, and it ended in a double DQ or not a double DQ, just a disqualification. So Charlotte Flair is still your champion. Her and Rhea continue on a little afterbirth. And then you get a quick cash in from Nikki Cross, the almost superhero, comes in, cashes it in, does her move off the ropes, that crossbody, and 1, 2, 3, we got a new women's champion.
Precisely. That's about the long and short of it right there. Yeah. Let's see, at one point, Rhea Ripley almost had this match in the bag. She was going to get her belt back, and Charlotte did the heel move that you do. You DQ yourself to keep that championship. It's as old as the ages, but it still works after all this time. Just a good excuse to get the almost superhero out there. And we got ourselves another Kofi Kingston situation where this person is not necessarily ready to be a champion, but the community loves them so much.
No choice.
You kind of got to give the people what the people want, and the people want an almost superhero champion.
And then Bobby Lashley has a little run in his match.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley defeats Keith Lee. Finally, we get Keith Lee back on television.
Keith Lee is back.
And Lashley retains over him. And after this match, you know what time it is, Brian? It's who's next.
Who's next? It's who cares is what it is.
You say who's next. We say who cares. It's the 54-year-old Goldberg making his way to the ring.
He gets to show up and just say he wants a match. Same with John Cena. Not going to lie, the Cena thing was a big pop. Pretty cool, whatever. But he gets just to come in and say he wants a match at SummerSlam. Goldberg gets to come in and say he wants a match at SummerSlam. Like, why are we reaching back? Is it just to sell tickets? Is that what we're doing? We're not letting anybody, like, we're not going to give Keith Lee a shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got some talent floating around here these days. And we're just going to be like, oh, reach back in the hat and put on Goldberg and John Cena. Cool.
Yeah, and the difference is I feel John Cena can still work. I feel The Rock can still work. But we have proof. The proof is in the pudding, my friend.
That
Goldberg
murdered a
can
dead
no
man.
longer work. Yeah.
The only person that can murder a dead guy. The thing is I don't mind if they come back. I'm not stating that. What I'm saying is they should have came back and led to it. They shouldn't have came back and instantly that night said I want the match at SummerSlam. They should have been there. They should have been taunting, Bobby Lashley. Goldberg should have come back and been, come on, give me the match. He doesn't get to come back and demand a match.
The thing is, yeah, Goldberg, I think, not even kayfabe, and Goldberg's real brain, he thinks he's on Brock Lesnar's level. And any day of the week, Brock Lesnar can come back. He can come back 5 years from now and not be on TV one day and demand a match. And I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. He's gold status. He's Hall of Fame status. He can demand a match. Now, Goldberg's in the Hall of Fame too, but he's been complete garbage every time we've seen him. He's not in that upper echelon anymore. In my mind, he doesn't get to come in and just demand a match. He can come in and demand whatever he wants, and you just kind of brush him off like the crazy old man at the retirement home trying to beat you in checkers.
I just want more storytelling. I just want him to come back and want the match. Bobby Lashley not give it to him. I want Goldberg to get interfered with Bobby Lashley's matches till they finally say, damn it, I'll give you the match, and it's me and you, and we're going to put it on. But just to come back and be like, I'm fighting you in a month. Cool. Nice story. Why do I care that they're fighting? Like, there's no backstory to them. So I think it's a little lazy. It's reaching in big names on a card, going out to Vegas, SummerSlam. They want to sell tickets, live crowds, etc., and so on. They didn't care about the story of any of it.
Precisely. And I think that puts a wrap on our all WWE episode of the KayFabe Smark podcast.
Next week, we are talking Fight for the Fallen, because that'll be happening over on AEW, so make sure you check that out. Eric's going to give a quick, fast watch of last week's second night of Fyter Fest, because you got to be filled in for what's happening over on for Fight for the Fallen. We'll talk about a recap of all of that leading up to where we're at, Fyter Fest, and then Fight for the Fallen. So we'll see what's happening with all of that AEW nonsense. Join us on all the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, social media platforms, and check out and make sure you join for YouTube. Hit the little buttons. Join us so you can watch us live. And I think that's about it, man. We got this wrapped up pretty nicely. Eric, what do you got to say?
I got nothing else to say except catch us next week. And hooty hoo, we out the gates.